Well, I'll tell you what, it's pretty cloudy out here. It was raining like crazy this morning. Yesterday, when Karen, the weather girl, went to Publix, the store was packed. People picking up bread and milk and all this other stuff. And I'm, quite frankly, I'm not understanding it. I mean, that this Milton is coming in from the west. We live on the east coast of Florida. We're 2 or 3 miles from the actual, the water itself. To me, this is a big nothing. Like I say, a lot of rain this morning. Cloudy now, starting to brighten up. I don't think this is going to be anything, but we'll see. Well, it's raining again. I woke up this morning raining like crazy, and I'll tell you what, I think the world is going nuts. Now, first off, let me give you a frame of reference. I started off this morning taking a snapshot of the Weather Underground radar map that, covering our area, and here it is. And I'll tell you what, I don't see a hurricane on there. I don't see any bad weather. Yeah, I mean, the rain is a little irritating, but it's not much. Now, Vero Beach, today, Tuesday, they've shut schools down. I don't think this hurricane is anywhere near land, and I don't think it's going to come to Vero Beach. But people are going nuts. Now, I got to say, it's very nice that we're getting so many calls and messages and whatnot from our family wondering if we're okay, but we're just great, and we have no intention of going anywhere. I'll give you my interpretation. I think that people, the media, are hyping the misery or the size or whatever of this hurricane across the state, even though it's mostly probably just going to affect people on the west coast of Florida. But they do it to get you watching. It's like they keep claiming that this election is close, too close to call, and therefore the idea is keep you watching the news. And I remember how many times when we would spend winters in the north, you'd hear about some snowstorm that's coming, that's going to be the worst blizzard in 100 years, and whatnot. And what you'd get would be a light dusting of snow. I think they're doing the same thing with this hurricane, getting people upset. I mean, even my neighbor Walt Carl across the street took in his potted plants, put them in the garage. Look, to me, the most important thing going on today is not Hurricane Milton. The most important thing going on is the Mets hosting the Phillies at Citi Field. That series is tied at one, and I'm looking for the Mets to really crush it, get the Phillies on Mets home ground, and see what they can do. Anyway, maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm getting it all wrong. Time will tell. Wednesday morning, and I think you can tell there's absolutely nothing going on here. I mean, it's cloudy for sure, but we haven't woken up to a terrific rainstorm, nothing like that. There is nothing going on, and I'm not sure, I think this hurricane is going to cross the west coast of Florida sometime today. They're probably going to get some rough weather. But it doesn't look to me like anything is going on here in Vero. Now, I gotta say, people are going nuts. Let's start off with the Eagles. They announced last night, that the Eagles would close this afternoon at 6 o'clock, and they would stay closed all day tomorrow. Why? I have no clue. And, it's a little bit of a problem for us because we like to go to the Eagles on a Thursday afternoon for a couple of hours, but we're not going to be able to do that tomorrow. I don't know what the story is with schools, but there's a kind of mass hysteria taking off, and I blame it all on the media. I mean, the most important, most significant thing that happened in terms of this hurricane, as far as I'm concerned, overnight was the Mets picking up that win against Philadelphia at Citi Field. And you realize the importance of stealing that first game on the road in Philadelphia. So now all we got to do is win one of two, and we're in the National League Championship Series. So we'll keep an eye on that. Certainly keep an eye on the hurricane. The kind of stuff that I've done, I've taken the flag in because you're supposed to do that with inclement weather. And the other thing I'm doing, is trying to make sure that my iPad and my iPhone stay fully charged all the time, because if for some crazy reason we lose power, I've got to have my electronics. I absolutely have to. Yeah. So anyway, this is the next day in the Hurricane Diary, a journal or whatever you want to call it, and really not very much to report. Well, the wind is starting to die down out here. Big action was yesterday afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, something like that. We got, believe it or not, in a 2-hour period, we got 6 inches of rain. And you can see our street was flooded. And our neighbor across the street claims that it was because some drains down the end of the block were blocked with debris that came from a handful of tornadoes that came through parts of Vero Beach. Now, the most important thing that went on was we never lost power, never lost internet, and the result was we didn't miss a single out in that big Mets win last night. And this is great. I hope the Padres are ready to really get crushed by the Mets. But back to the weather. The wind is supposed to die down sometime today, and I think it's I think this is all going to turn out to be just fine. So yeah, some people got nailed a little bit in Vero Beach, which I'm surprised by, but we should. Well, Friday morning, and we've got a little bit of rain still coming down, a last little remnant of Hurricane Milton. And this is going to conclude the Milton Diary. I've got to say, I've got two considerations that come to mind after this hurricane. The first one is, I think Milton is an absolutely awful name for a hurricane. I mean, I don't know how they come up with these names, but I thought it stunk. And the other thing is, the last hurricane we had was Helene. And, you wonder what happened to the hurricanes I, J, K, and L. It looks like they kind of jumped. But I'm not interested enough to do any Google research on this, but I mean, it is a fact. You just have no idea what happened to those names. Maybe they're reserving them for something else. Anyway, this hurricane is over for all intents and purposes. A little bit of showers this morning, but we're ready to go out to the West Coast, take on baseball out there, and see how our Mets do on the West Coast. And plus, in the meantime, we got some Hobart football tomorrow afternoon. So that's this Milton Diary, and that's this week's weekly recap. See you next week.